What's going on YouTube? I'm here with my friend Joe. We met in 2000 back when we were in Alabama. Joe joined the Air Force when he was 18 and retired at 38 or 39?
39.
39. So his second to last job, he was an MTI, military training instructor for the Air Force at the gateway of the Air Force, which is at Lackland Air Force Base. So what I'd like to do is use his experience where he can share for you if you're thinking of going into the Air Force, what to expect and things like that. So my first question for Joe is, what will trainees experience when they go through BMT?
Well, trainees are going to experience a lot of different challenges, most of which they probably have never faced. The first of being subordinate to someone who they've never met, and understanding what it takes to complete a task, not only as an individual, but more importantly as a team. And so that's probably the biggest challenge. Of course, everybody likes to talk about, the drill sergeants yelling and screaming. That's part of it, but it's a lot more than that. It's more of an individual challenge, and then more importantly, together as a team, and how to successfully complete basic training, taking away and stripping away the individuality of someone to say, it's not about me, it's about us. And that's a little bit hard for some people to take. Some others will do well with it, but for the most part, it can be a very, very trying task. So that's what I would say.
What about the stress and fear that people experience when they go through BMT? Because I remember when I went through basic training, my first day and night and first 2 days, I was like, what did I get myself into? And as I talk to people, a lot of people feel that same way. What did I get myself into? Why did I do this? What's your input or advice on fear and stress and the amount of stress that people are going to experience when they go through BMT?
Well, the fear is common. It's really what it is the fear of the unknown. And so as you venture into the process of becoming an airman, there's a lot of fears in beginning, from signing a contract to saying, I'm going to enlist for 4 years or 6 years. There's stresses that go along with that. And then, of course, when you arrive at basic military training, and again, you see the smoke of the bear hat, an individual out there who, from the very beginning, is going to be very, very direct. Most folks are not used to somebody being so direct and in a very loud manner. We're not going to politely ask you to get up off the bus. We're going to tell you what you need to do, and you need to do it then and there. So the fear is just the fear of the unknown. There's not a military training instructor that you're going to meet that is going to punch you, kick you, do any of those kinds of things. So there's no fear in that. The directness and the loudness of how they tell you to do things is what people, really your body doesn't know how to react to some things like that, because it's never happened to you. Or it's never happened to you with an individual who, again, you've never met. The stress, of course, of that, your body's going to go through a lot of things. One of the funniest things that happens to most people in basic training, and as an MTI, I can tell you, you wouldn't think about this, but having to go to the bathroom. A lot of trainees won't go to the bathroom for over a week. And that's not healthy, but that's because of stress. They fear somebody's going to come in here, or I'm going to get yelled at, or those kinds of things. And your body just does very, very strange things, and everybody reacts differently. Some people have no problem going to the bathroom. Other people will pass out, just randomly pass out. I can count on my hand how many times on the first day they get off the bus, I get them into the dorm room, people just pass out because I'm yelling at them. And so your body will react very different. Some people will break out in hives. Some people will start shaking. Some people will start smiling. Some people will start laughing. Laughing is not a good thing. When an MTI is talking to you, it'll be a very painful day for you. But your body's just going to react differently, and it's okay. It's normal. Again, your MTI is there to direct you in what you need to do, and you just have to pay close attention to detail, to the most minuscule things. But as with time, it'll get easier. You'll start understanding why your MTI is telling you what he or she is telling you, and you become a little more comfortable. Does that mean you're not going to be stressed out? No, you'll be stressed out the entire time until the day you graduate and after. But it's just a progression for you as an individual joining the ranks of the world's greatest Air Force.
That's right. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about, and then I want to, maybe you can share with us some of the fun things. If fun is the correct word, in the sense that I remember when I went through basic training as an individual, 50 people or so, 50 guys, and then we became a team. And the first time that I felt, it's not fun, but the first time that I felt that we were clicking as a team. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But one of the things he talked about earlier was teamwork. So can you talk about teamwork and strengths and weaknesses as an individual and as a flight?
Well, when it comes to teamwork, again, as an individual, it just depends on that said individual. Some people joined the Air Force and they were the captain of their football team, or the president of their student council, and so they had a responsibility and a respect that you come to basic training, you're just an ordinary Joe. There's no, I don't care if you were captain of the football team, but the mentality that one has sometimes when they go into that, or I was the president of the chess club, and so I'm smarter than you, or I'm stronger than you, really doesn't play a role in basic training. Those are the people that have the most difficulty with basic training. Is I'm not number one, I'm not in charge. Why am I being yelled at? Why am I being held responsible for all these other trainees? And it can go up or down. Some people will exceed, some people will fail, and it's okay to fail. There's nothing wrong with failure. What I would tell my trainees is look at everybody who's in a leadership position that gets fired and don't do what they did. That's how easy that is. But eventually, you start working together. It's actually quite phenomenal. The group dynamics that you learn. I used to tell my trainees all the time at the end of basic training, who do you think learned more, me or you? And what I mean by that is, do they think that I learned more from them, or did they learn more from me? 9 times out of 10, the trainees will say, sir, we learned everything from you. It was great. It was great. It was great. And I tell them, actually, it's just quite the reverse. I learned more about group dynamics with my trainees in every single flight. And it was amazing. You put males, a group of 60 males into a flight who've never met each other. They're very stubborn. Again, you have your macho men that think they should be in charge, that fail. You have smart kids who think, hey, I'm smarter than you, so I should be in charge. They fail. And then there's those that succeed. But right around the 3rd or 4th week of training, because this individuality that our males have in them, it's hard to get out of that. Right around the 3rd week of training, 4th week of training, they start figuring it out. After time and time again that the MTI says you need to get out of that I concern and consider what about us, okay? We're a team. And so once you get out of that phase, that 3rd and 4th week, the trainees start figuring it out for my males. At the end, it's one of those great moments. For my females, same thing. Group dynamics is very different. MTIs often say, we love female flights in the beginning because females have a natural tendency to group together and coalesce as a team in the beginning. A lot of it has to do with fear. Their fear of the unknown again, so they're going to come together and they're going to figure it out. And it works out really great. So if you look at a 2nd week flight marching of males, they still can't figure out how to go left, right, left. Females figured it out very, very quickly. Then you fast forward into the 6th and 7th week of training. The males, they're together. They figured it all out. It's their teamwork. It's all about the team. There's no individuals anymore. It's all about us. Females, on the other hand, sometimes might not necessarily get there as fast. They were originally in the beginning really, really close. Towards the end, maybe they don't like each other. And vice versa. It works both ways. So it's not necessarily that females will be this way at the end or males will be this way at the end. It's really about the teams. But the group dynamics that you see are quite amazing. My advice to any trainee, whether you're in a leadership position or not, male or female, it doesn't matter. Step back and look and just observe. Don't say anything, just observe. And you'll figure out some of the personalities that will either A, try to dominate the dorm or the flight, and then those individuals that, even though they don't say much, when they do speak, they have a lot to say. And so you have to try to figure that out. On top of figuring out, studying for your test, on top of making sure your beds are good, making sure your locker is good, making sure your MTI, you're following everything your MTI says, making sure that everybody's trying to pass. Because again, it's not just about you, it's about your teammate. So, the individuality is tough to try to get out of for my males in the beginning, but they figure it out. My females, they're great at it in the beginning, and they figure it out at the end too. So teamwork is key. You will never graduate basic training if you're just that one person that says, I don't care about anybody or anyone else other than myself. And I'll be honest with you, if you have that mentality in life, doesn't mean that you won't graduate basic training, but if you have that type of mentality in life, it's not going to be a very good place for you to be, because you're not going to help anyone. You're more concerned about yourself. And selfishness is not one of our core values. It's actually quite the opposite. So we want to make sure that we provide you the best guidance, the best mentorship, the best type of leadership skills, because one of our mottos is educating tomorrow's leaders today. You guys are our future leaders. You're going to be our future leaders. You're going to be the future officers and senior NCOs throughout your Air Force career. It might not always be hard, or it might not always be easy, but it will definitely be worthwhile, especially if you travel down the road of a 20 plus year career, and see that all those people that you despised early in your career, whether it was your supervisor who was always hard on you, whether it was your MTI who pushed you constantly, whether it was your commander who pushed you, they didn't do it because they wanted to be jerks. They did it because they knew that you could do better than what you are. And sometimes as young adults, and even as we move forward in life, it's hard to realize that, but eventually you will realize that. And when that happens, it's a great thing to see. I know throughout my career, I went back to those mentors who gave me letters of reprimand, who utilized some pretty harsh tactics on me to try to change my ways. And at the time, I hated it, didn't like it, but I made it to where I made it because of them. So even today, at post-retirement, I can look at some of the things that I do now in my civilian life and say, hey, that was all attributed to because of Staff Sergeant Dan Lovedahl in 1993 when I was in Grand Forks Air Force Base.
Was that his name?
That was his name, Staff Sergeant Dan Lovedahl.
And it's interesting because he remembers his TI's name. I went through 96, and I still remember my name. Joe's led 4 years of flights. Estimate how many male and female trainees?
Probably in the thousands. I mean, definitely in the thousands. Different roles that we play in MTI.
He's here visiting, and I always pick his brain. Do you ever go somewhere and where a former trainee talks to you? And it happens all the time. So my last question for Joe is, first of all, thank you for chatting with us, is can you share an experience or a moment when you felt that you bonded with any of your flights? Mm-hmm. As a flight, not as an individual, but as a flight, male or female? Yeah,
actually, it was my female flight. As a matter of fact, it was my first female flight. We had a young lady who was the dorm chief who, she was just a little more mature than most of the trainees. I believe she was 24 years old. And so she listened to everything we said. And she made sure her element leaders did what they had to do. The flight respected the element leaders. The element leaders respected the dorm chief. The dorm chief respected anybody who was in authority over her, whether it be the MTIs, a commander, or a first sergeant. There was a lot of challenges in that flight in the beginning, and they really did great. They ended up winning honor flight, which was absolutely amazing. The number one graduating flight in all of basic training for their graduation period. And so it's neat to see those kinds of progressions, especially for a new MTI. I was fairly new. I was within my first year of being an MTI. But anyone can do it. And on the opposite end, I've seen flights graduate basic training, my own personal flights that have graduated basic training that hated each other at the end. And that, I attributed that to my failures, not necessarily theirs. They share responsibility, but those are the things that helped me as an MTI. I remember going to one of my MTI mentors and saying, what did I do wrong, or what is it that I can do for the next flight to make sure that this doesn't happen? And his response, like anybody else's, is it's not that you did anything wrong. It's just it didn't work for that particular flight. Every flight is different. But yeah, my female flights were always fun. My male flights are good. They're great. They're hardcore. I pushed out of the 320th Training Squadron, predominantly combat controllers, all our Air Force Special Forces. So big tough guys typically, but just like anybody else, regardless of what they want to do and what job they want to do, they're there for a reason, and that's to serve our country. And so the challenges that you'll face in basic training, as you will in life in your Air Force careers, are really dependent upon you. One of my great mentors, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Bob Gaylor, number 5, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. He talked about the 3 A's, and it stuck with me very, very young when I first met him. And he talked about attitude, not aptitude, will determine your altitude. Attitude, not aptitude, will determine your altitude. Meaning, no matter how smart you are or how smart you think you are, it's not about how smart you are. It's about your attitude. And if you have a positive attitude, if you are going to go in there with an open mind and say, I can do this, I can learn from somebody, you're going to be a success, whether it's in the United States Air Force, whether it's in the civilian world, whether it's in a corporation. So as long as you keep those 3 A's in the back of your mind, and you go through basic training, believe me, you'll be fine. We're not going to let you fail. But again, you have to make sure that you hold yourself accountable to all things in basic training, especially your military training instructors.
Perfect. Thank you again, Joe, for taking the time to share this great information. I like to share with people as well. If you're going through basic training, it's going to be challenging. It's a team. And he talked about the 3 A's. I've also talked about adjusting. Maybe it's your attitude, your outview. Do whatever it takes. You're going to have strengths and weaknesses. You're going to work with the team. And like you said, I loved that he said, we're not going to make you fail. Is that, how was it that you said?
Yep, we're not going to let you fail.
So it's up to you to make those adjustments as well. And always reach out to the people who are near you, your teammates, your leadership. Make those adjustments and make the most of it. And I'll leave you with this. Enjoy your journey in the Air Force, the greatest Air Force in the world.
Cool.
Take care.